So I'm recording now. Just going to do that so that if you can see these are things that that are not demonstrated yet on our YouTube channel, and so I'm just gonna add to that. So here's what I'm going to do. What I like to do, the way I like to use pivot tables is keep them simple. There's a lot of extra stuff that gets added in pivot tables, and it's not useful. So what I like to do is I like to keep them simple, and if I need to use a pivot table to calculate something 4 times, I make 4 pivot tables. I don't do it all in the same pivot table because it'll give you some weird summary information. So I've highlighted this pivot table here, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to paste it. So I've got 3 tables now. One is called shrubs. That's the cover class. That's the percent cover for shrubs. One for trees, which is the thing we're most interested in. That's percent cover for trees. And now I've got this third one down here, and it's repeating the information for trees, which I don't want. I want to know the percent cover of the understory. So what I did was I just switched understory and trees here. And I kind of mentioned this before. Pivot tables have some default things that they do that will potentially cause you problems. So you always want to pay attention to what output it is giving you. Here it has summed up all of these cover classes as percent covers for the understory. That's going to create some information that's pretty worthless. I need to know the average. I need to know the average for each of these things, and so I changed this to average, and that gives me the information that I actually want. So now with that, I can extract information that I can use to add to a comprehensive figure of these different cover classes. And so what I've done right here is I've plotted the first 2 with their standard deviations. So I've got the shrubs and the trees. These are, I've demonstrated this previously. I got them on there and everything looks good. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to make a little space for myself. I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to just cut and paste so that I can come back over here, and now I can get what I actually want, which is the averages for each plot, or for the full forest type. Plotting things by plot is not a good way to summarize information. It's much easier to look at a single mean and a single standard deviation. That way you have an understanding of the average conditions as well as how much variation there is, how much the range of values or the range of differences across those. So I've written in our typical average function, and I've also got our same one as I demonstrated before, same standard deviation function here. And with that there, I can just copy this and paste it. And what I want to do now is I just want to make sure that it's working right. And the way that I do that is I just, F2 will show you, will give you access to whatever function you've written into the cell. And in this case, it's also highlighting here what range of values are being, the function is acting on. So, you can check to make sure that if you got 5 plots, that you're taking the average from 5 plots, or the standard deviation from 5 plots, so on and so forth. If this is basic review, I apologize. Students tend to be very mixed in their capacities to use pivot tables. And if you don't use them yet, they can save you a lot of time. Really, a lot of time, and they can save you a lot of mistakes too. Like I say, in my professional life, I've gone way past pivot tables, but I still recognize that they're nice tools. Okay, so what I've got now is I've got my means for the understory, the mean cover, and the standard deviations for understory. And I want to add them over here into this data that I'm using to make this figure. But I've got a problem. I have sorted my data over here according to I've assorted this data according to the canopy cover. So I've got, it's from smallest to highest. And if you look here, these sites don't match up with how they're sorted over here. The pivot tables sort them alphabetically according to the name of the site. So I need to, I've got a problem here and I need to clean it up. So what I did was I wanted this figure to go from least amount of tree cover to maximum amount of tree cover. And so I sorted it so that it would do that. But now I want to add information to it. So I essentially need to unsort it. All right, so the way that I do that is I highlight this data here. And I'm going to sort this according to the same rules that it's sorted in the pivot table. That is to say, I'm going to sort it alphabetically by forest type. The way that you do that is up here in the data tab. There's a thing called sort, and it gives you this dialog. It's got this little thing here. My data has header rows, and this is something that you need to pay attention to. You can mess up pretty bad here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it sort according to site. Something that you can do with sort is if you have a more complex data format, you can add levels so you can sort by more than one factor at a time. We don't need to do that. So here's what I've got. I've got it by site. I hit OK, and it changes my figure here. It switches everything around. And it also has done something else. Down here below this, I have the standard deviations, which were sorted according to increasing levels of tree cover. So now the standard deviations are not matched up with their appropriate site. So this is a bad figure. And it's only worthwhile right now temporarily, just so I can add information to it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab this this information here. This is the averages sorted alphabetically. I'm going to copy these, and then there's this little dialog has paste options, and I'm going to paste values. That's really important because if you paste the equations, it'll calculate something that doesn't make very much sense. And I'm going to write understory here. And then I'm going to have to go down here. I'm going to have to sort this also. This is the standard deviations, because if I copy and paste the standard deviations right now, they're not going to be matched up right. So I have to sort this also, but there's a little thing here, a little trick. This data does not have a header row. So I need to look at the data set, and I know that site is in column Q, and I sort that, and then everything looks correct. It's in the same order here on the top for the means as it is for the standard deviation, and they're sorted in the same order as they are over there in the pivot table. So then I can just get these standard deviations, copy them, and then paste them here. Okay, great. All right, so why did I do that? I want to add information to this figure, and I do that by going down in here and then selecting data. All right, and I've got oh man, I'm going to add a series here. The series is going to be called understory, and then I'm going to add the values here. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I hope this works. Okay, it looks pretty good. I think that looks right. And in fact, I'm going to hit OK, and I'm just going to kind of visually go through here and make sure that everything looks correct. This eucalyptus stand had the highest understory cover percentages, and so that looks correct. And then this pinyon pine was the lowest, and so on and so forth. Great. Now I need to add the standard deviations to this. And the way that I do that is I click on these guys here, And then I need to go up to the figure stuff. I had to move this Zoom dialog out of the way. And again, the way you do this is pretty clunky, but it works. There is also an option for doing it with Google Sheets. There may be other options out there. You go to Add Chart Element, and we've got the error bars, more error bar options. And here, what's really helpful is just immediately just say plus. Just do plus. That way, you only have to choose one set of data. So then I go down here into custom, and I'm going to get my positive error bars here. I select them, I hit OK, and then I've got a more complicated figure. And then you can go from there, sorting the data according to something that you want to understand better. You got more information that you're stacking up next to each other. It gives you a more complex and comprehensive view of your data set. And that's helpful when you're measuring something like a forest, which has a complex and overlapping canopy structure. Cool. I'm going to stop recording.